Welcome back to the War Room. We're going to be looking at another army today. We've got the Sons of Behemat. This is a fun army. This is an army that I think I would like to play. If you love centerpiece models and you love not having to deal with 100 models on the board, this is the army for you. Very low model count, very durable. One of the big things with this army, I think, is planning out your combat phases effectively so you can get your max output. There's not a lot of movement shenanigans. They're a pretty straightforward army, but your rampages can have you do some cool stuff, and your combat phases, knowing where you're going to all out attack, where you're going to all out defense, if you're going to try and power through somewhere, is a really big part of this army. So let's jump right into this. Let's get right into the battle traits. So the first one is Timber. Each time a friendly Mega Gargant or Gargant model is slain, before removing it from play, the players must roll off. The winner picks a point on the battlefield within 3 inches of that model. Inflict D3 mortal damage on each unit, friendly and enemy, within 3 inches of that point that has a lower health characteristic than that model. So the Gargant, the lore of it is he just falls down, crushes whoever he falls down onto. D3 mortals onto each unit. So if you win the roll-off, you can pick where he lands and smash some people. The Gargant charge, this is any charge phase. Pick a friendly Mega Gargant or Gargant unit that charged this turn to use this ability. Then pick an enemy unit that has not been picked as the target of this ability this turn, and that is in combat with that unit to be the target. Inflict D3 mortal damage on each target. When you charge in, you just pick a unit, hit them with D3 mortals. So pretty straightforward. Earth-shaking roar. This is once per turn per army in any combat phase. Pick a friendly Mega Gargant or Gargant unit that has not used a rampage ability this turn to use this ability. Then pick an enemy unit in combat with it to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+. The target cannot use commands for the rest of the turn. Pretty straightforward. It's an enemy unit. It's not like monsters or anything like that. As long as you roll a D3, they cannot use commands. Colossal Slam. This is once per turn per army in any combat phase. Pick a friendly Mega Gargant that has not used a rampage ability this turn to use this ability. Then pick an enemy monster or war machine that has a unit size of 1 and is within 1 inch of it to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+, remove the target from the battlefield, and set it up again within 1 inch of this unit using this ability. Then inflict D3 mortal damage on the target. This one I can see being used to grab an enemy monster or war machine and put it in like a disadvantageous spot where they're going to be in more danger than they were before. Pulling them off an objective, putting them behind you where you got another Gargant there waiting, and then he's getting double teamed by 2 Mega Gargants, and that's pretty nasty. So that's kind of how I see that one being played. Jump up and down once per turn per army in any combat phase. Pick a friendly Mega Gargant or Gargant unit that has not used a rampage ability this turn to use this ability. Then pick an enemy infantry unit in combat with it to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+. Roll a dice for each model in the target unit. If the unit using this ability is a Gargant, inflict 1 mortal damage on the target for each 6. If it is a Mega Gargant, inflict 1 mortal damage on the target for each 5. So this is kind of like your horde killer. If you're getting swarmed by clan rats or I think like blue horrors or anything like that, anything that has just a ton of bodies and is an infantry unit, you can kind of mortal wound them to death and kind of chop some of them down. Moving on to battle formations, you got the Taker Tribe. Once per battle in the deployment phase, you can use more stuff for me collection. Pick a friendly non-unique Sons of Behemat hero that does not have an artifact of power. Give that hero 1 artifact of power from Titanic trophies. And then the little note here, this artifact of power is given to the unit during deployment phase, not during army composition. So we'll get to the artifacts of power in a second, but they're pretty awesome. They're pretty solid. So this one is a good one to take. The Breaker Tribe. Friendly Mega Gargants have a ward of 6+, while they are within combat ranges of any other friendly Mega Gargants. If you want to throw your Gargants in nice and close to each other, getting a 6+ ward never hurts. Just a little more maneuvering on your part and planning out how much you want to throw into certain combats and things like that, because a big part of this army, I think, is being able to not overkill something and being able to get your max output in each combat by not sending everything all at once one spot, everything all at once in the next spot, right? Kind of planning it out so you can hit hard and cripple something and not take a whole bunch of wounds back. But that's just me. I don't play this army. That's just kind of how I see it being played. The boss tribe, this is once per turn per army. This is a reaction once you've declared a fight ability for a friendly Mega Gargant. Pick a friendly Gargant unit that has not used a fight ability this turn and is wholly within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. The target can be picked to use a fight ability immediately after the fight ability used by this unit has been resolved. What I am seeing a lot being played is people just running a whole bunch of Mega Gargants and make people deal with that. Or they run like 3 Mega Gargants and then they run the little Man Crushers, which are just Gargants. And so those are the only ones that would be affected by this ability. But a lot of people are using those Gargants as kind of like their objective guys and kind of run around and do battle tactics as well. So I don't see this one coming to play a whole bunch, but it is nice to have that kind of follow me thing if you wanted to go and just get everybody into combat. It's not a bad way to go. The Stomper tribe, Revel in War. You can pick 2 friendly Mega Gargants or Gargant units that have not used a Rampage ability this turn to use the jump up and down ability instead of 1. One thing I forgot to mention about the battle traits, all those Rampages, you can't, I've read it, but I didn't emphasize it, so you can't use multiple of those on one guy. And it's once per turn per army, so you can't use like everybody do jump up and down. But this battle formation lets you do jump up and down twice with 2 different Gargants or Mega Gargants, which is really nice because if you're facing a ton of infantry, it's a really good way to just kind of mow down a whole bunch of those guys. But if I was picking one of these, I think I would probably do, I don't know, it's tough. The Taker tribe, Breaker tribe, and Stomper tribe are all really good. I don't think I would do the Boss tribe. Moving on to the heroic traits, once per battle in any combat phase, you can use Furious Temper. For the rest of the turn, add 2 to the attack characteristic of this unit's melee weapons. Subtract 1 from save rolls for this unit. This one is, I feel like it's going to be really, really swingy. I mean, if you go in with one of your Mega Gargants and you know you're going to be hitting first, this is a really good one to take. It is only once per battle, but like if you just need to kill a whole bunch of stuff, I think this is a really good way to do it. Adding 2 to the attacks characteristic of all your melee weapons before they get to swing back on you. Like you can really just cripple something entirely, especially because all the damage output on a lot of these are really high. You got D3s and D6s where if you spike those, it's extra high. But I can see this being used. It's once per battle though, so if you don't kill enough stuff and they swing back on you, like you have a very good chance of dying because you're -1 to save, and if they have any rend, then you're going to be on like a 6-up save with all defense, maybe like a 5-up save. It's really dangerous. I don't think if you're a risky player, run this 100%. If you don't want to take a whole lot of risks, don't run Furious Temper. Monstrously Tough. This unit has a health characteristic of 40 instead of 35. Very straightforward. You get 5 extra health. Considering that all of the Mega Gargants have a ton of health, giving them extra health is awesome. So that might be one that I would consider picking if I was trying to keep my stuff alive. And then Rabble Rouser. Add 1 to charge rolls for friendly Sons of Behemat units while they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit. So you can kind of pair this up with the battle formations and some of these abilities because a lot of it is wholly within 12. It's kind of tough to do because the base sizes on these guys are humongous. So getting wholly within 12 is a little tough. But if you can get them close to each other and you want to keep them close, you have that battle formation where you have the 6-up ward. With this, you're adding 1 to charge rolls. Like, you got a little bit more juice there. The Artifacts of Power, you got the Amber Bone Totem. Once per battle in your charge phase. For the rest of the turn, this unit can use charge abilities even if it used a run ability in the same turn. Run and charge is awesome. It's essentially a 3d6 charge because it's just in the movement phase. You roll a dice and you run that much, and then you charge 2d6, so it's just split up. But it's essentially a 3d6 charge. The Glowy Lantern. This unit can use summon abilities from the manifestation lore you picked during army composition as if it had Wizard 1. They don't have any wizards. They've got a priest. So being able to get manifestations out can be really nice. Like if you wanted to run the primal energy, get the life swarm out, so you can heal your Gargants and just make them even harder to kill, is one way to go. Or if you want to, try and get the Kron Spine every single turn, that's another way to go. The Mantle of Tusk and Horns, once per battle in your combat phase for the rest of the turn, add 1 to hit rolls for friendly combat attacks made by friendly Sons of Behemat units while they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit. This is one I'm seeing a lot of people run. They throw this on someone because a lot of your attacks are hitting on 4s, so this helps you to hit on 3s, which is just insane considering the damage output. I mean, if they have any sort of debuffs or you're like minus to hit and you have this, then it's just your base profile. You throw an all-out attack and then you're +1 to hit again. Like, I think this is a really good one to do. It is once per battle, so you have to kind of time out your combat there and when you're going to pop this. But that's kind of this whole army, is figuring out exactly when you want to go, exactly when you want to use your best stuff, exactly where you want to use your command points. That's where all of your brain power is coming in. It's not coming in like the movement phase necessarily, but it's coming in planning out your combats and figuring out like where you're splitting attacks and things like that. Extra Calloused Feet, add 1 to the attacks characteristic, rend characteristic, and damage characteristic of this unit's Almighty Stomp or Almightier Stomp. So all of your Mega Gargants have the Almighty Stomp. The profile of the Almighty Stomp is 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage D3. So if you take this, it adds 1 to attacks, so your 5 attacks, your rend 3, and then your damage D3 plus 1. Seems pretty awesome. If you take the battle formation where you can take 2 of these, taking the Mantle of Tusk and Horns and then taking Extra Calloused Feet, I think if you just want to just fight things, that's one way to go. The Glowy Shield of Protectiness. Each time you make an unmodified save roll of 6 for a combat attack that targets this unit, inflict 1 mortal damage on the attacking unit after the fight ability has been resolved. So, it's pretty straightforward. If you're rolling your saves, for each 6 that you roll, you do 1 mortal damage back on that unit. So it's another way to kind of get some extra mortals in there. But I don't think that this is better than Extra Calloused Feet or the Mantle of Tusk and Horns, or the Glowy Lantern. I think this does have play. Like if you're scared of seeing super hordy armies, seeing clan rats, seeing blue horrors, but just seeing those 20 bodies, 40 bodies, and you're rolling a whole bunch of 6s, and you spike it, you just kill a whole bunch of guys. The Kingslaughter Cowl, add 1 to the attack characteristics of this unit's melee weapons while this unit is in combat with an enemy hero. This is all the time. It is a little tricky because it's just heroes, but adding 1 attack for each, melee weapon is really good because these guys all of them have 3 profiles. All of them can deal out a ton of damage. Getting an extra attack there just helps you get more damage into different things. Once again, I think Mantle of Tusk and Horns is one we're seeing run a lot, and Extra Calloused Feet I think is really good as well. Moving on to the War Scrolls, we got Kragnos, the End of Empires. So for those of you who play Destruction or have played against Destruction, you've probably run into Kragnos a handful of times. He's really good. Like, his base profile is really good. All of his abilities are awesome. He's a ton of points, so it's a little tricky finding a spot for him in this army, but we'll read through this real quick. He's got a 4-up armor save, he's got a 5-up ward save, and they got 10 inches of movement, 18 health, and 15 control. His melee weapons, he's got the Dread Mace, 6 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s, rend 3, damage 4. And then the Tusk Breaker is 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage D3, with crit 2 hits. And then the Hooves of Rack and Ruin, 6 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s, rend 1, damage 2. That base profile in and of itself is insane, especially considering you throw an all-out attack in this. The Dread Mace is hitting on 2s and wounding on 2s, tearing through all of your armor and doing 4 damage for each one that gets through. He's battle damaged when he has 10 or more damage points. The attacks characteristic of the Dread Mace is 4, and this unit has a control characteristic of 10. So he's already 15 control, which is insane, but he just goes down to 10 when he's battle damaged, and he loses 2 attacks on the Dread Mace. The Shield Inviolate, this is essentially, it negates a spell. So if this unit was picked to be the target of that spell, roll a dice on a 3+, ignore the effect of that spell on this unit. This unit can use this ability more than once per phase, but only once per spell ability. If someone's trying to cast a spell onto him, he can just roll on a 3+. That spell does not work on him. The Avatar of Destruction. If this unit would be automatically destroyed, it is not automatically destroyed. Instead, allocate 6 damage points to it. Ward rolls cannot be made for those damage points. So you just can't one-hit him. Like with Archeon, I think it's Archeon who's got the Slayer of Kings. You can't just like one-shot anybody. You can't one-shot Kragnos or any of the Mega Gargants, but we'll get to them in a second. Rampaging Destruction. This is once per turn per army in any charge phase. If this unit charged this phase, pick one of the following effects. Roll a dice for each enemy unit within 1 inch of this unit. On a 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage on that unit equal to the roll. Pick an enemy monster in combat with this unit and roll 2d6. On a 7, this ability has no effect. Otherwise, inflict an amount of mortal damage on that unit equal to the results of the dice used for the 2d6 roll multiplied together. For example, a 2d6 roll of 2 and 6 would inflict 12 mortal damage. So, if you're charging Kragnos into a whole bunch of people, use the first one, because for each enemy unit within 1 inch, you can do a ton of mortals. But if you're in combat with a monster and you want to get tricky, you can roll 2d6. And if you roll anything but a 7, you multiply that roll together and you do that many mortals. So if you rolled 2 6s, you could do 36 mortal damage onto a monster. And this is a rampage. It's not a fight ability. So if you did 10 mortal damage, then like, okay, now I'm going to fight with him and I'm going to kill whatever's left. Kragnos is really good. He's a ton of points, but he's really good. And then the end of Empires in your charge phase. For the rest of the turn, add 1 to the number of dice rolled when making charge rolls for friendly destruction units while they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit to a maximum of 3. So 3d6 charge as long as things are wholly within 12 of him in the charge phase. Really good. King Broad. 4 up armor save, 10-inch movement, 40 health, control 20. He is a priest 1, but we'll get to that in a second. His melee weapons, he's got the Obelisk of Tor Crania, 6 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage 5. The Almighty Stomp, 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage D3, with anti-infantry +1 rend. And then the Death Grip, 1 attack, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage D6. And this is anti-hero +1 rend. The base profiles for all of the Mega Gargants is really good. Control 20 is crazy. It's really hard to take objectives from these guys. Even when they're battle damaged, their control score is 10. They do get battle damage when they have 15 or more damage points. The attacks of its Obelisk of Tor Crania is 4, and this unit has a control characteristic of 10. So even 10 control score is really high, and he's going to kill a lot of stuff that he's in combat with. But as a Priest 1, he can do this prayer. It's called the Power of Behemat. Make a chanting roll of d6. Pick one of the following effects. If the chanting roll was 10+, pick 2 instead. Shatter the Mountains. Add 2 to the move characteristic of friendly Sons of Behemat units for the rest of the turn. Might of the Earth. Heal D3. Each friendly Sons of Behemat unit. Pummel all to dust. For the rest of the turn, add 1 to the rend characteristic of the Obelisk of Tor Crania, the Menhir Club, Fort Crusha Tail, Shipwrecka War Club, Titanic Boulder Club, and Massive Club, used by friendly Sons of Behemat units. This is an awesome prayer because this is like board wide. It's not, I'll pick units that are within 12 inches or whatever. It's everybody, every Sons of Behemat unit gets all of these. Not all of these. Every Sons of Behemat unit is affected by this prayer. And if you roll a 10+, right, if you have been banking those points and then you get a 10, you get to pick 2 of these. They're so good. All those weapons on the Pummel all to dust, those are the first melee profile for all of the units in the army. And so adding 1 to rend, it's going to essentially put everything at rend 3 for those. It's crazy. So as long as you can figure out how to hit, you're going to wound with a lot, you're going to blow through people's armor, and you're going to do a ton of damage. The Creeper's ability, this unit cannot be picked to be the target of enemy rampage abilities. So you can't make it so he can't use commands, you can't do like mortal damage, stuff like that. That it has the rampage keyword. So he's really hard to kill, and he's 40 health, so he's just hard to kill. Son of Behemat, if this unit would automatically be destroyed, it is not automatically destroyed. Instead, allocate 6 damage points to it. Ward rolls cannot be made for those damage points. All of the Mega Gargants have these because it would be ridiculous if your 40 health general ran into a combat and got one shot by some dumb ability, and you're like, well, there's a quarter of my army just gone. So they threw these in for each of the Mega Gargants so that things like that cannot happen. You still take damage, but it just doesn't instantly kill you. And then Longshanks, this is another one that all of the Mega Gargants have. This unit can pass through models in non-monster units and parts of terrain features that are less than 4 inches tall. It's essentially fly, but you can't pass through monsters or terrain features that are over 4 inches tall. But just because they're just so huge, they can just kind of run over everything. King Broad is awesome. Seeing him in a lot of lists that people are playing right now because of the prayer. The prayer just makes him worth it. But that goes off on a 5. So odds are you're going to have to pray twice to get this off. And if you roll a 1 on your prayer, you lose some of those chanting points. So you might not get this off in a battle. If you do, it's really good and helps you out a lot. The Beast Smasher Mega Gargant, 4 up armor save, 10 inch movement, 35 health, 20 control. He's got the Menhir Club, 5 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage 5, anti-monster +1 rend. The Almighty Stomp, 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage D3 with anti-infantry +1 rend. And then the Death Grip, 1 attack, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage D6 with anti-hero +1 rend. Once again, battle damage when this unit has 15 or more damage points. The attack characteristics of its Menhir Club is 3, and this unit has a control characteristic of 10. The Behemoth Brawler, subtract 1 from the attack's characteristic of enemy monsters while they are in combat with this unit. He's called the Beast Smasher for a reason. All of his abilities and things are going to be beneficial against monsters. He has Longshanks, we already talked about that one. Beast Breaking Strike, pick an enemy monster in combat with this unit to be the target. This unit can make a pile-in move, then roll a dice on a 4+, inflict 5d6 mortal damage on the target. It does have the fight keyword, so you would use this instead of its melee weapon profiles. It's a little risky because it's a 50-50 shot you get it off. Because it is, you have to roll 4+ and then you do the 5d6 if you get a 4+. So it's a little tricky. It's a little risky, but 5d6 mortal damage sounds very nice, and you can kind of do a lot of damage there. At Sons of Behemat, we talked about that one as well. You just can't automatically be destroyed by some of those one-hit mechanics that things have. The Gatebreaker Mega Gargant, 4 up armor save, 10 inch movement, 35 health, 20 control. He's got a ranged weapon, so it's the Hurled Boulder. 18 inch range, 1 attack, hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s, rend 3, damage 4. It's 1 attack, but it's 4 damage, and it's rend 3. It's awesome. If you can hit and wound with it, it's just going to squash someone. So, little foot heroes, beware. The Fort Crusher Flail, 6 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage 4, with anti-faction terrain, +1 rend. The Almighty Stomp, 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage D3, with the anti-infantry, +1 rend. And then the Death Grip, 1 attack, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage D6, with anti-hero +1 rend. They're battle damaged, once again, when it has 15 or more damage points. The attack's characteristic of its Fort Crusher Flail is 4, and this unit has a control characteristic of 10. Sons of Behemat, we've talked about that. Longshanks, we've talked about that. The Pulverizing Strike, pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target. This unit can make a pile-in move, then roll a dice on a 4+, inflict 4d6 mortal damage on the target. Very similar to the Beast Smasher. You would use this instead of your melee profiles. It is on that 4-up again, and it's only 46, but you can pick any unit you're in combat with. So he's got a little more options with that. I don't know if I would use that as opposed to just rolling the attacks. Smashdown, once per turn per army in any combat phase. Pick a terrain feature within 3 inches of this unit to be the target. If the target is faction terrain, inflict D3 plus 3 mortal damage on it. Then roll a D3 for each non-monster unit, friendly and enemy, within 3 inches of the target. On a 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage on that unit equal to the roll. He hates faction terrain, is his thing. The lore there says Gatebreakers have a deep loathing of settlements, which they see as symbols of those who killed Behemat. So they hate buildings, they hate terrain, they hate faction terrain. I don't see this one coming into play super often, but if it does, I mean, it's just another way to get extra mortal damage on things. Moving on to the Kraken Eater Mega Gargant, 4 up armor save, 10 inch movement, 35 health, 20 control. He's got a ranged weapon as well. It's the Hurled Debris. 24-inch range, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage D3. And then the melee weapons, you've got the Shipwrecka War Club, 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage 4. The Almighty Stomp, 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage D3, an anti-infantry +1 rend. And then the Death Grip, 1 attack, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage D6, with anti-hero +1 rend. His battle damage when he has 15 or more damage points. The Shipwrecka War Club goes down to 3 attacks, and the Control goes down to 10. Sons of Behemat, we know. Longshanks, we know. Get Orf Me Land. Once per turn per army in your hero phase, you pick an objective within 1 inch of this unit to be the target. Roll a dice on a 2+, move the target 2d6 inches to a new position on the battlefield more than 1 inch from all models, terrain features, and other objectives. That objective is treated as if it were in the same territories as it was when it was first set up on the battlefield for the purposes of the battle plan. This seems like kind of a more strategic ability here, where like you can kind of hop up onto an objective, toss it behind you, so that your enemy, your opponent, has to go farther to get that objective. I'm not seeing the Kraken Eater used a whole bunch compared to the other Mega Gargants, but I don't think he's like a bad selection necessarily. Stuff him in me net. This is once per turn in any combat phase. Pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll 3 dice for each roll that is at least double the target's health characteristic. 1 model in the target unit is slain. So if you're seeing a whole bunch of infantry that have 1 health, you just got to roll 2s and then you put them in your net. So another way, it's essentially mortal damage, just worded a little differently. The War Stomper Mega Gargant, 4 up armor save, 10-inch movement, 35 health, 20 control. He's got the Titanic Boulder Club, 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage 2, with anti-infantry +1 rend. The Almighty Stomp, 6 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage D3, with anti-infantry +1 rend. And the Death Grip, 1 attack, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage D6, with anti-hero +1 rend. Battle damage, once again, when it has 15 or more damage points. The attack's characteristic of its Titanic Boulder Club is 3, and the unit has a control score characteristic of 10. Son of Behemat can't automatically be destroyed. Longshank, essentially fly. You just can't go over monster units and terrain features that are more than 4 inches tall. The Titanic Boulder Club. If all of the attacks made with this unit's Titanic Boulder Club target the same enemy unit, for every 5 models in the target unit, add 2 to its attacks characteristic for the rest of the phase. This seems a little crazy, where like if you're seeing a whole bunch of clan rats, you're seeing any sort of horde army, for every 5 models that it's attacking in that unit, you get 2 more attacks added on to the Boulder Club. It's only damage 2, so like all the rest of them are damage 5 or 4. His is only 2, but it is anti-infantry, so you rend 3 onto those guys. Like, you can just get a ton of attacks that way and just blast through these hordes that you're seeing. Hurled Body, pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a dice. If the roll is at least double the target's health characteristic, 1 model in that unit is slain, and you can pick a visible enemy unit within 12 inches of this unit. Inflict an amount of mortal damage on that unit equal to the target's health characteristic. So you just chuck someone from the unit you're fighting into someone else, and I think that's hilarious. So it's just essentially another way to get mortal damage. If you're fighting cavalry that have 3 health and you roll a 6, you can pick up that horse and chuck it into another unit and it'll do 3 mortal damage. Up next, we've got the Man Crusher Gargant, 5 up armor save, 8-inch movement, 12 health, 10 control. They do have ranged weapons. Throwing rocks is 12-inch range, 1 attack, hitting on 5s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage D3. And then the melee weapons, they've got the Massive Club. It's 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 1, damage 2. And the Ed Butt, 1 attack, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage 4. The Mighty Kick, 1 attack, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage D3. The abilities, you've got Keep Up. While this unit is wholly within 12 inches of a friendly Mega Gargant, this unit can use charge abilities even if it used a run ability in the same turn. Run and charge is awesome. Stuff them in me bag once per turn in any combat phase. Pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a dice. If the roll is at least double the target's health characteristic, one model is slain in the unit. Pick a guy up, stuff him in that bag. It's essentially, once again, mortal damage there. What I've kind of seen these guys be used as is like your objective getters, your battle tactic getters. Like they're kind of just running around because they're probably going to be able to handle anybody else's stuff that's out on the flanks. And so I've seen a lot of people take a couple of these guys and just run them out on the flanks and deal with everything else while your Mega Gargants are holding down the fort and doing all the main fighting and right in the center of the battlefield while these guys run around. So that's kind of what I've seen them be used as because they're less points, obviously, than Mega Gargants. The Man Crusher Mob, 5-up armor save, 8-inch movement, 12 health, 10 control. They have ranged weapons of throwing rocks, 12-inch range, 1 attack, hitting on 5s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage D3. They also have the Massive Club, 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 1, damage 2. The Ed Butt, 1 attack, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage 4. The Mighty Kick, 1 attack, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage D3. So they also have the keep up, so they can run and charge if they're wholly within 12 of a Mega Gargant. They also have Stuff Them in Me Bag. But the one thing that's different here, you've got Ooze under the heel now. Each time this unit uses the Gargant charge ability, add 1 to the amount of mortal damage inflicted, if any, for each model in this unit. So you're doing extra mortals on the charge. You're doing D3 plus however many you have, right? I'm not going to dive into the Regiments of Renown. What I do like about the Regiments of Renown is that all of them are like named Gargants. I think that's pretty cool. And you have a Beast Smasher one, you've got a Gatebreaker, you got a Kraken Eater, and you've got a War Stomper. So you have one of each of the Mega Gargants that you can ally into other destruction armies. I don't see this a ton, but I like the idea that they all have names, and that's pretty fun. That is the army review for the Sons of Behemat. Fun army. If you like having, once again, giant models on the board, this could be the army for you because these are giant models. And if you don't like having to deal with a whole bunch of movement, these guys are very simple. You just have to kind of plan out your combats and where you're going there, but you don't have to do a whole lot of movement shenanigans for the most part. It's a pretty straightforward army. But let us know what you think in the comments. If you play Sons of Behemat, leave a like on the video. Comment what you run in your list. If you're not already subscribed, please go ahead and do that and like this video. It helps the algorithm. It helps us know what people like, what people want to see more of, and helps us to reach our goals as a channel. Thank you for watching. This is War Room Gaming. We'll see you next time.